It is now more than a month that we have been on strike after having notified the government about our dissatisfaction with the erosion of the common law.
We try to educate the Yaoundé delegation on the reasons for the bitterness in our communities. We reminded them of our cultural and economic heritage that we brought into this union that has been destroyed over the years.
They have attempted with what they do best, corrupting our people, to corrupt me, and failed. Because I'm not cheap. But again, I'm not saying other people are cheap. They're either tired and weary of the struggle. And when the flesh is weak, the mind sucks. But I'm saying, when you are climbing the mountain, where you get tired, the man who still has some ounces of energy in his muscles, you can lean on him and you all can attain the summit. Today, with the modern technology that is available, if they had invited me on Zoom to attend the meeting in Canada, the things I'm telling you now, I would have told them.
One of the things I'm trying to establish here, okay,
yes,
is one, whether Canada even has the ability or the standing to be hosting anything that our people are being serious about.
But who told you that it is Canada who is organizing the meeting?
No, but it's holding place in Canada, and my understanding is that it's the Canadian government inviting these people. And so my thing is that...
No, except you have seen the papers. Except you have seen the papers. I know cases where the board of directors of a bank in Nigeria, they decide to go to London or to Paris and hold a board meeting of the bank.
Oh, so you're saying it's not Canada organizing this?
The Canadian government has nothing to do with it. I can tell you this.
So who is sponsoring this meeting holding in Canada, where the Prime Minister of Cameroon is there, and a lot of other people who are really peripheral to the struggle are also there? Who is organized what I call a sham? Who is organized Swiss Part 2 in Canada?
Well, you even giving it the name Swiss Part 2 and asking me if I were the organizer or if I had the papers that had organized it, I say from leakages that have come back from the Canadian meeting through Cameroon to me, the meeting in Canada is not the initiative of the Canadian government. Did you hear the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs making any pronouncement there?
I didn't hear anybody there. It was secret, so no. So the answer is no.
Yeah. The Cameroon government has an embassy there. They have an embassy there. So they can do any sort of thing. And we have even talked about the mischief of the French abusively using Quebec against, or the possibility of using Quebec against the interests of Southern Cameroon. You see, professionally, I would like to have the hard evidence. And I'm sure these people who are out there, they are going to produce a product and come and sell to us. When they bring that product, the person who will bring it out will ask him, who authorized you, who supervised you, what mandate did you have, and so on and so forth.
Is the Canadian situation part of the resolution of the Ambazonian situation? Let me ask you that. Can it lead?
That is a waste of time and resources, because it's like a plane that will not take off. The people are just having a burdensome vacation in Canada.
What is the purpose of Canada then?
Honestly speaking, you are asking me to tell you why the gentleman in North Korea is designing rockets and firing them. Maybe he just has pleasure in sending those rockets into the air. But I am telling you that as far as the expectation concerns Ambazonia and I as an Ambazonian, it's an exercise in futility.
Okay, no, I get that one. Let me say this. Okay, I think the purpose, part of the purpose of a discussion like this on a forum like this or a platform like this is to instruct or is to inform the Ambazonian people or people who are interested in that situation, so that they know how to act or how to receive or reject this thing. I think we already have an experience with Switzerland, and we know that there's an authority that came out of Yaoundé saying, "Oh, the Swiss was just a joke. We're having some pressure from Mbeki and some African leaders to resolve the situation in order to placate them." We said the Swiss we brought in the Swiss to play the delaying tactics so that we can defeat the Ambazonians. Obviously, they did not defeat the Ambazonians. So, and that's why people are calling what is going on in Canada, Swiss Part 2. So when I ask you what is the purpose, yeah, we can speculate about it, because we already...
If you ask me what the purpose is, the purpose is envisioned from the point of input. But ask me about what do you think will be the impact of the so-called talks in Canada, taking place in Canada. They had a phase 2, they had a phase 1, and perhaps next week they will be there for the phase 2. So how is it going to impact the Ambazonian process of exiting from violence to peace? I say that peace without justice is not. The kind of peace we want is peace with justice, and there cannot be any justice that takes a thread of hair, a strand of hair from the body of Ambazonia without allowing us access to the fullness of self-determination that involves a consecrated identity as a people articulated into an independent nation. And the sort of thing that is going on in Canada, from what is filtering and is yet to be confirmed, I like to tread on that side of caution, shows that these people are negotiating as if they are part and parcel of La République du Cameroon. They are not. And I challenge them. If they are representing Ambazonia at every stage of the discussions there, they should issue a statement to clear themselves. Because this is where I will agree with you that it will turn out to be another failed process like the Swiss talks, because this is just stage managed. There's no proper intent. And I insist that any sort of thing, anything like that, which is being done by an NGO like CDN, handpicking people, what mandate, for God's sake, do they have to handpick people? First of all, they are not the ones biting the bullets. And before we resolve, before we prepare ourselves fully for the resolution of this conflict, there has to be a ceasefire, a withdrawal of the troops from our territory, so that we organize ourselves county by county and get representation endorsed with a clear mandate. This is what you are going to negotiate for. Don't say you went there and because of the pressure from America or Canada or Britain. Excuse me, how many times do you have an opportunity to influence even the banana republic that Britain has become, changing prime ministers like diapers? We need to get serious. And the message here is also to each and every Ambazonian who has any sort of that identity. You will not sit idly somewhere and say that some people are secretly going to challenge them. And I am challenging each and every person participating there. They cannot tell me after this discussion that they are innocent, because I've said it. You have no constitutional mandate. You have to keep your house in order before you go out to negotiate. And in fact, you cannot be negotiating when the other party, either directly or through his friends, are financing your movement and your feeding. No.
All right, let me ask you another quick question. Do you think this is part of diplomacy? Because some people think that this is part of diplomacy. Is this part of diplomacy? Would you say, would you think it comes even close to being diplomacy?
There's nothing diplomatic about it. Because in diplomacy, the parties in a negotiation have their stance clear. They may marinate the procedure with a lot of sugar, without shouting, without shooting guns, but the substance of what they are asking is clean and clear and supported by their people.
So is this messing up the Ambazonian struggle, legitimate struggle in any way?
Yes, it is driving us into a wedge. If we sit quiet and we do not condemn the destructive secrecy of a negotiation, I know some of the people who are there, they may have their money to pay the flight and so on, but hey, man, we are here, and I know how everybody is struggling. Even the bourgeois, they have impoverished families back in Ambazonia. They are internally displaced persons, refugees, and so on. Their money cannot be enough to have change to pay and go to Canada. No.
Okay.
They must therefore come back so that we put our $1 across the board, and they know that they owe their participation in any such process to our mandate, which we have financed, so they remain accountable to us. For the moment, what is going on in Canada has a minus quotation in terms of integrity.
Yes, I'm with you, because I was, somebody was saying this is part of diplomacy. I said no. I said this is actually taking off from zero to a minus. It's like the Swiss process took us. It put off people who could have looked at our situation and come in for humanitarian reasons and say we cannot sit around and see you treat people like this. And so they use the Canadian thing. And so, yes, I agree with you that it is a minus.
The European Institute of Peace offered to facilitate the negotiations. And it was rejected by the interest groups who quickly endorsed the Swiss process. So there is a catch there. Some people start quoting haphazardly the peace process in South Africa. I happen to have visited South Africa in those early days of their independence.
Please summarize it because we're running out of time here.
I'm saying that there are myriads of examples of how to get about building peace where it has been absent. Ours is like the bone marrow cancer that will supply the cancer for every other soft tissue organ. And therefore, we need to be very, very careful.
Yes. And I just read.
So when the people who are in Canada leave from there, they can go back to Yaoundé and go and give a report that we have done our best, but we don't think we can convince the Ambazonians, except you go by what the leaders have said. Bobga, I was saying that I don't want to toot my horn, but the Common Law Lawyers Conference was my conception well before it took place. Even the hidden ingredient of asking for the independence of Southern Cameroon was a joker under the sleeves.
Our idea is to make our point heard. It is now more than a month that we have been on strike after having notified the government about our dissatisfaction with the erosion of the common law.
But there is no way a meaningful discussion of the exit from this genocidal situation on Ambazonia can work without the participation of the common law lawyers who have moved to the far end of having the Ambazonian bar. It cannot work without the input of the teachers.
We try to educate the Yaoundé delegation on the reasons for the bitterness in our communities. We reminded them of our cultural and economic heritage that we brought into this union that have been destroyed over the years. We made mention of the Power Cam, Cameroon Bank, the National Produce Marketing Board, on the Trade Center. We mentioned the fact that the Southwest Region councils in the Southwest have never received royalties for forest, for timber exploitation, whereas councils in the East receive royalties every quarter. We mentioned the fact that councils in the Southwest have never received royalties for petroleum, and the seed of petroleum is found in Dian Division. And there is no road, nothing to show that we have contributed so much economically for this country's growth. After that, we began discussing substantive matters, not without indicating that we may jolly well end resolving all the issues on education, but that as long as the children that are under detention are not released, and that the lawyers don't meet in the ad hoc committee to discuss the issues that they tabled, including the issues of coexistence, or you want to call it federalism, it may be impossible for us to suspend the strike.
It cannot work without the input of the traders and other members of trade unions who constituted the consortium. All these other people, they can prostitute themselves as much as they can. What they will end up with will be an international political HIV that will not allow them to see the glory days of Ambazonia.
I'm
not giving a curse, but I'm giving a prediction.
No, it could even be a curse. Would you predict that these people are counter-revolutionary, if you want to call the Ambazonian situation a revolution to better their lives?
Absolutely, and we have lived this in other countries, in other revolutions. We have lived this in other revolutions. About 3 years ago, I started collecting the statutes of various movements, like the ADF and Egg of Sea or whatever, have all sorts of strange names, each of them pretending to be the right representative government, all those virtual governments.
And these are people who voted. These are people who voted with their feet out of the place 20, 30, 40 years ago. And somehow, the people who are looking for peace think that they can go and get people who are not fighting the war, who do not even understand how it started, and somehow make peace with them. And that's really the crux of why I brought you here, to say you are the person who started this thing. You've been fighting, you're paying the price, and you're living in exile away from everything you worked on all your life. And then somehow, let me just finish my statement. Somehow, they do not think that in talking about peace or settling the matter, you should be involved. That is amazing, isn't it?
No. Let me tell you, this thing started a long time. We are educating. By this means, we are educating our population. I hope next time when we have the opportunity to have a discussion, we can take a topic, and we should start taking topics like this negotiation in Canada, and discuss it in pidgin English, so that it goes down to the people who are important, the people in ground zero.
Well, trust me, Barrister, the people are getting the information. Sometimes he has to go through interpreters. Sometimes he has to go through it filters down. Don't worry about that. People are very smart people, and I think those people who you say are governing virtually are undermining the intelligence of the people on the ground, and they are
not even governing virtually. They have dramas, parallel dramas that are going on, which have nothing at all to do with the reality of the situation. They should stop that nonsense.
Let's just touch on October 1 before we go. Okay. What do you? We haven't had a conversation about October 1. What's your October 1 message, and tell me how you felt on that day?
You can be sure that I didn't feel good, but then I didn't feel completely bad. First, I am not standing on the soil of Ambazonia to celebrate.
In fact, I just wanted to add that it's actually real in 90% of the territory now, because La Republic, it's only in the urban areas, and I just got message from home that the Cameroon militaries, the soldiers are refusing to go to the interior because they'll go and meet their end.
The message I have that's coming out of this is the international community, and by this I mean the United States, Canada, Britain, France, Germany, principally, and the European Union as well. They should know that the game they have played in the area of international political economy with La République du Cameroon at the expense of Ambazonia is well understood by us, and nobody is going to trick us. I was reading a paper from the World Bank on the impact of the crisis. I mean, they are producing material to build the pillars for tomorrow that Ambazonia is part and parcel of La République du Cameroon. Before this month runs out, I'm writing to the president of the Bretton Woods institutions that no, you have to correct this idea. And if you continue to sponsor dissemination of the wrong characterization of Ambazonia, we will consider you participes criminis in our problem.
I don't know why you want to spend time.
Don't think that because you are a Goliath, all the Davids are dead. Ambazonia is a David. That's why there are 2 cubes of sugar is not even dissolving under acid.
Yeah, but they have no choice. Barrister, they have no choice but to hold that line until they can, until
they have a choice. They have a choice because the Greco-Christian philosophy of government is anchored on the Christian maxim that the truth shall save thee. They should live by the truth.
Well, now that you just talked about the World Bank and obviously Western powers, they play what they call geopolitics, and which we have been told that geopolitics trumps legality. And so, and what's your opinion about that?
I think I've had this discussion and I've heard it from our friend.
Yes, yes.
Quote unquote.
Yes.
Friend, Mr. Thibault Nash.
No, Thibault Nash is a friend. There's no quotes about it.
Hey.
There's no quotes about it.
I will not deal with that. I will not deal with that. But let me just tell you something. The way I am committed to the interests of Ambazonia, objectively, that is the way I expect Thibault Nash to be committed to the interests of the United States. And whether you like it or not, there is an international interest that is weighing heavily against us. It will not succeed, but it will bring us pain momentarily. And when you talk about Britain, for me, there's no difference between Britain and France. Britain is even a worse evil than France. And from my
before you go to that though, let me just come back to Thibault Nash. You know, I don't agree that he should feel about there's space for humanity and for justice to be seen across international borders, and so you don't have to be a citizen of that place to see that is wrong. And Thibault Nash has said many times that he was in Bamenda and he knows that our people have not been treated correctly, and I think part of what he has been emphasizing is for us to get together and win this thing. I don't think he has any doubts about the rightness of our cause, and I think he has also said that he would support whatever we chose.
My personal belief, very strongly, is I, can feel comfortably support whatever the majority of Anglophone Cameroonians support.
He said that on a show. I remember that. So
okay, maybe he said that to you, but in my discussions with him, he told me they maintain the status quo.
No, that was when he was the African he was the Assistant Secretary of State for Africa. He on shows he has also said that at that time he was representing the interests of the United States, and he could not be speaking on his own behalf. He was, I think he has been very clear, and I think he is a friend, and we should. He's one of the rare friends, actually. That's my view.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you were growing up, did you watch James Bond films?
Yes. As a grown-up, I've continued to watch James Bond films.
Yeah, even during your time in Britain, I'm sure you watched it a lot. Most of the girlfriends that Sean Connery befriended, who showed a lot of love and what have you, they were Russian spies, right?
Yes,
in counter-espionage.
Yes.
My advice here is that let us not dissect the pronouncements of Thibonage. Let us take the good. Let's harvest his ideas. But when we go to prepare it, we should make sure that we select what we need and leave what we don't need.
Ambazonian will need a lot of friends. South Africa needed a lot of friends. And it is the friends of South Africa in the United States that defeated the American government to give South Africa their independence. So we need friends. Thibonage is one of them.
Look, you're spinning this thing off tangent, because the geopolitics that you talk about, right? Forget about that crap of friends. You have to hold your own. And this is my theory. Ambazonia has to be independent. But I will forever trust something other than a double cap wearer. I say it's not fair for Thibonage and for us to deal with that. It's not about Thibonage, but I'm telling you, for anybody who is an American, what is the import of the oath of allegiance? When the chips are down, what do you choose?
Barrister, a lot of countries in the world got their freedom from the American government because they went out and said those people deserve to be treated better. They did that in Vietnam. They've done that in many, many other countries. All I'm trying to say is that humanity is humanity. And even though we have national boundaries, it doesn't, the sense of judgment, the sense of justice, the sense of fairness goes across borders. And so we will get a lot of Americans who would say, and Thibonage is one of those people who has been very clear that we have been marginalized, and he tried to work with the Cameroon government to make things better, but they refused.
You're just citing the words that do not fit. We have to be part of the Republic to Cameroon to start invoking the theory of marginalization. We don't need that. If we are us, there's no question of marginalization.
No, you have to make a case. Look, we are with them now. We have to make a case to separate, and it is that case we're trying to make now, isn't it?
The declaration of our separation has been made.
Yeah, virtually.
Are you telling me now that the people who are going to Canada to negotiate as if they are part of La République de Cameroon, they are correct?
No. These are the enemies of Ambazonia. They are the enemies of Ambazonia.
No, let us not flip-flop. If we agree that Ambazonia, from the historical legal foundation, is a separate and independent people and nation, let's stick to that.
No, we are sticking to it, except they have messed us up, and so we're trying to...
No. I say, let us stick to that. And what we should be doing is to correct what has taken place in the past and is still happening.
Yeah.
But if you say you are treading on marginalization, like I saw some stuff from CRTV where they started talking about, they have this number of deals, we have only 4. This number of director generals, we have never held this position. I'm not interested.
Okay,
Let me tell you, part of the bribery that they wanted to give me was that I should choose what ministerial position, and I told them that I am minister of Bobga's compound in Bali.
Look, I think
This is my problem.
No, I think you are. Let me say this though.
Our people need to understand that if you take a decision, you breathe it for life.
No, I think all Ambazonians want their independence. I think, but we are talking about the process, and I think that there are people who are coming to our support. Barrister, give a concluding statement because we're running out of time here, and
well, I think I was already giving a concluding statement that there is a better way. Definitely, every conflict has to end, and the sustainability of the peace that comes out of the end of the conflict depends on the content of justice in it. And the content of justice is anchored on a solid foundation of truth. The truth we have sufficiently articulated to the world. The world took us for a ride. They are reluctantly coming to terms. So I am telling the Western world, and I've said it before, Ambazonians are not thinking of living like an island amongst nations in the world. What we want is that we should enjoy our right to self-determination articulated to independent statehood in its fullness. And from that platform, we shall interact and collaborate with the rest of the world, like many smaller nations, even in Europe, are doing today. We should be able to control our resources. We are not going to accept idiots. Sorry to say this. Or compromised people will compromise integrity to be our leaders who will trade off our resources in the subsoil for crumbs. We want a situation where every serious decision concerning our resources will be the product of proper communitarian democratic discourse, where the policy will target to bring the benefit of our God-given resources, the enjoyment of our humanity to each and every Ambazonian and every person who comes to reside in Ambazonia or become an Ambazonian by naturalization, as well as committing faithfully and resolutely to owing allegiance to Ambazonia. The world must not think that by standing up for our identity, we are standing against Pan-Africanism. The African people have suffered enough, and they need the warmth of coming together in a new Pan-Africanism where we shall mutually recognize each other and determine the process of our uniting to become one nation of Africa, not by the dictates of people from outside Africa, but the process has to be owned, managed by us as free people, free individuals, free nation, for a free confederation, even if that is going to mature into a free continental nation like this United States is today, not by killing some people, but by recognizing and respecting each other. And for this process, I've written it. It should be known that whoever likes the photo relevance should know that on a pro bono basis, the Southern Cameroon's Bar Foundation is ready to do all the paperwork to facilitate the upholding of the integrity of the process and the outcome of any negotiation for our independence, both at international level and at local level. Our self-defense forces, I hail you for beginning to come together. I hail you for hearing, acquiring, studying the Geneva Conventions and respecting them. Your conduct as a civilized force is bringing shame onto the ruthless, genocidal La République du Cameroon forces, which is now prepared to run away from its own shadow. Rest assured that in the days ahead, when we are ushered into freedom, which is close, none of you shall be forgotten. The ones who have been who have fallen, they shall not be forgotten. We shall look for their children, look for their wives or their family, and uplift them as a matter of priority. Post-conflict reconstruction is the only opportunity where, holding hands together as one people, we shall look back and say we don't regret that we fought. I know I'm an adherent of non-violent approach to resolving this conflict between La République and Ambazonia. Yes. But I also recognize what the United Nations recognizes, that if you push a man to the wall and he has no other opportunity, he has a right to crash onto you. And that is what I call Ambazonian self-defense. The Atangan Paul and rascals who are in government, who have set up militia, whom they sponsor and call Amba boys as well. Shame on you, because your judgment will not come from man, but from God. And it is going to be soon. But repentance is an avenue. If you repent, you pull your forces out, and you are an Ambazonian who has been facilitating the job of the enemy in our truth and reconciliation process that will be set up as soon as we are whole. You will confess your sins and you shall be forgiven. But if you prove tough, rest assured, a post-conflict tribunal take care of your issues. All your ill-gotten wealth will be smelted like iron to build the railways and the roads in Ambazonia, because that's public property misappropriated. God bless Ambazonia. God bless the Ambazonian children who are engaged selflessly for no price other than restoring their nation as self-defenders of Ambazonia. Have a good night.